How's it going, everyone? Kevin here with Roll On Gaming, and once again, I am joined for a special episode by my co-host and my brother Corwin. Corwin, we got some stuff to talk about this time.
We sure do. I don't want to bury the lead. I'll let you take on that responsibility, but it's going to be an exciting one.
So we have seen a steady but slow trickle of Shadows of the Galaxy cards being revealed by the folks over at Fantasy Flight Games, and our channel is going to reveal two brand new exclusive cards for you today. So I want to give a huge shout out first and foremost to Xander and all the folks over at FFG for letting us reveal these really awesome cards. It's always a blast when we get a chance to do this. We had a lot of fun with the Snowtrooper Lieutenant and Corwin. These cards are pretty cool.
Yeah, they're packing some heat, man. I'm excited to talk about them.
Yeah, so we will jump right in. But again, thank you to FFG. If you're new to the channel and you like what you see, please feel free to drop a like on the video and subscribe to the channel. That helps us out a ton. We're going to be talking about these cards and all the other new cards that start to get revealed for Shadows of the Galaxy as we finally have seemed to have reached spoiler season. So very exciting times for Star Wars Unlimited. Let's go ahead and jump right into it with our first new reveal exclusively on the channel. That is Death Watch Loyalist. Now this is a 3-cost aggression villainy ground unit. It is a Mandalorian trooper. It is a 3/3 with grit and overwhelm, and it is a common. Now, Corwin, first impressions of Death Watch Loyalist. What do you have?
Yeah, good card. I mean, definitely good for a common. It's got the Mandalorian keyword, which definitely feels like it's going to be getting a lot of love in this set. And then, grit overwhelm. I'm impressed with the ratio of power to cost here, given that it's a grit unit. A lot of times we see some of these units with grit coming in with a little bit lower power just because of that grit ability. But here you've got a 3 power, 3 cost unit that also has grit. Fits really well with the new Gideon leader that we see in the starter set, I think. Maybe even Grand Inquisitor might like this card a little bit too. I mean, who knows? But it's definitely got some spice to it, and the overwhelm is nothing to sneeze at, even for a lower cost unit. So I'm digging this card quite a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. When you think about Grand Inquisitor using his leader ability to ready the Death Watch Loyalist, all of a sudden you're attacking with a 5 power unit, and dealing some serious damage to your opponent. This is also really great if you decide to play in Vigilance and Aggression, which is a very popular pairing right now. This is a great target for Death Trooper. If you have this out and it's ready and you play a Death Trooper, instead of damaging your Death Trooper, you can damage this thing and again get to that 5 power threshold to be able to deal some serious damage. And the art here is incredible. It's cool to see what I believe is our first villainy Mandalorian in set two. We've seen a lot of heroism ones, and a neutral one as well, I believe. So this is going to be a really fun unit. I would also like to see if, now that we're getting some more Mandalorian synergy, I would like to see if we get a neutral, or maybe there's a heroism and a villainy version of something like a wing leader or a fleet lieutenant for Mandalorians, because that's just going to make this unit with overwhelm that much more you know scary to deal with when you add extra power on top of the 3 power that it already has, on top of potentially the grit. That can really stack up pretty well.
Yeah, no question. And of course, anything that's giving experience is, this card can certainly benefit from as well. So yeah, I mean, I think it has a place. It's a very aggressive card, and I definitely feel like the villainy side of things in red is going to like this at 3 quite a bit. Just thinking about the other 3 cost options for red, I mean, Fifth Brother is probably the most popular one at this point, and he's also a pretty aggressive card too.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I think the Loyalist fits right in there alongside of him as a solid option for villains.
Yeah, and both Fifth Brother and Deathwatch Loyalists can both threaten 5 damage with the
Right.
Grand Inquisitor, because if you use Grand Inquisitor's ability and then use Fifth Brother's ability, now he's a 5/1, just the way Deathwatch Loyalist is a 5/1. I must say, when you think about Deathwatch Loyalist, when paired with Cunning. You know, the obvious synergy there is Surprise Strike. You know, turning this into a 6 power with Overwhelm is going to be pretty good in a lot of uses. But with the little bit of focus on upgrades, especially when you're looking at some of the Mandalorian cards that we've gotten already, I do think I'm seeing a lot more uses for snapshot reflexes, and Deathwatch Loyalist could potentially be one of them. Because if you are trading into your opponent's battlefield marine, for example, and you play a snapshot reflexes and get that attack off into the battlefield marine, you're doing the one overwhelm, you're getting the damage and surviving for that grid ability. So now all of a sudden you're sitting there with a 7-1, which is a crazy number for three, I guess, four resources, if you count the reflexes upgrade. But now you've got a 7 power unit on the board round 3. That seems kind of scary.
Yeah, I mean, definitely some good applications here. I think just like I said, a very solid unit at 3. Feels very on curve. And the overwhelm is nothing to sneeze at, especially when you can potentially, buffer up in different ways and get that power increased with the grit. So I like this card quite a bit.
Yeah. One other synergy, that trooper keyword, going to be very important for cards like Precision Fire and anything that
Yeah,
gives
can't
troopers a buff.
underestimate that for
Yep,
sure.
absolutely. So this is card 136 of 262 in Shadows of the Galaxy. Let's talk about card 99. And card 99 may be a familiar card because we've seen the art already. But I bring you Echo. So Echo is an uncommon 4-cost command heroism. It's a ground unit. The subtitle is Restored. It's a 4/4 fringe clone with Restore 2. And when played, you may discard a card from your hand, give 2 experience tokens to a unit in play with the same name as the discarded card. So this is a wild ability. First things first, before we dive into the ability, our second Bad Batcher, both of them in command. How do you view that sort of coincidence, or not really?
Yeah, I mean, let's see. Let's see if command ends up being the aspect for the clone force. But I do before we get into any further comments here, Kevin, have to recognize that this is card 99 and he's a part of Clone Force 99. Intentional, perhaps?
Has to be.
I don't know. But yeah, I mean, even more so than just the fact that he's a Bad Batch character, a Clone Force character in green. I mean, separating from that part of it for a second,
Mm-hmm.
the fact that this unit exists in a space where green has been hurting so much for a good 4-cost unit all this time,
Mm-hmm.
that's what thrills me the most about this card, because I think green hero in particular just does not have very good options at this price point in green. And you now bring me a 4/4 restore 2 unit that also has this wild when played effect that brings a lot of upside. I am here for it. I mean, this is a card I'm extremely excited about as someone who's played a lot of Green Hero. Um, it just has everything you want, and and the 4/4 body is nothing to sneeze at either. So, Clone Force aside, I really like Echo just like in a vacuum as a 4/4 restore 2 unit that may bring some experience to the table. This is a really spicy uncommon.
Yeah, and you mentioned green heroism, but green in general has almost no options at 4 cost. There are 3 of them right now. 3. You have Grand Moff Tarkin, who's in the starter set and barely sees play. You have Bright Hope, which is the only heroism option and is a good card, but obviously doesn't help you out in the ground arena. And then you have the Escort Skiff, which has the contingent ability on having another green unit in play. How much that ends up being used is remains to be seen, but that's it. That's all you have at your disposal if you're looking for a 4-cost green unit. So automatically, Echo is probably easily the best of the bunch, right?
Well, I mean, yes, but we also have Crosshair now coming in at 4 as well for the
Mm-hmm.
Imperials,
Mm-hmm.
and he is a fantastic looking 4-cost unit too. So, um, the Bad Batch guys are really bringing it in that regard. I think we'll have we'll be replacing some current the ground units very quickly with these two respectively in heroism and villainy.
Yeah, that's a good point about Crosshair because again we've almost equaled the amount of green forecast units in the entire Spark of Rebellion set this early into Shadows. So that's a useful point, and how Echo and Crosshair find a way to meld together uh, remains to be seen. But let's talk about this ability because this ability is nutty in the sense that it's really flexible, right? You have 3 copies of every card in your deck or most cards in your deck. So this is going to let you discard one of those copies to buff an existing unit on the board. That's number one. That's the easiest application. You can discard a copy of a unit to give a leader with the same name experience, which is also cool. I mean, you probably don't want to necessarily do that for Luke Skywalker, but doing that for Sabine is just as good as a wing leader. And instead of a 2-1 body, you're getting a 4-4 body on the field. Or if you happen to have 2 copies of Echo in your hand, you can play the first one and discard the second one, and all of a sudden Echo's a 6/6 for 4 with Restore 2. I mean, the flexibility is out of bounds here.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it does cost you a card out of your hand, so I mean that's not negligible as far as a cost for the ability goes. But I think it's generally on curve if you think about, like somebody like Tarkin paying 1 for 1 experience. So you're essentially paying 2 resources for 2 experience, which 2 resources being a card out of your hand feels about right. um Spark of Rebellion costs 2, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that feels about right to me as far as a cost. But yeah, I mean the ability to immediately pump up Echo, or again, you're in Green Hero, right? So maybe you've got a Battlefield Marine or an Echo based defender out already, and now you're discarding a duplicate and you've got a bigger Sentinel or a bigger, like, turn 1 unit, and that's going to feel really good, especially not having to pay any additional resources for it. So certainly a lot of application here. Also has application late in the game. Pretty much anytime he's going to feel great with ECL getting the immediate restore 2. Yeah, I mean, this is this is going to be an interesting one for sure. I definitely feel like the ability can potentially hit quite hard when played at the right moment. So hopefully you can get it off. It's not always going to be super reliable, but it's definitely going to feel really, really good when you can make it happen.
Does Echo just automatically outclass Callus at this point?
Oh, I would say so. Yeah. I think I would much prefer. I mean, Callus has the same body and costs 1 extra
Mm-hmm.
just to get ambush, um, and the card draw. But I think, yeah, I'd much rather just have Echo at this point. Callus was already a card that wasn't seeing a lot of play.
Mm-hmm.
So, um, yeah, I think Echo feels a lot better at 4.
Well, I'm really interested to see how much play Echo gets. I'm really interested to see how Echo and Crosshair are going to end up gelling with the rest of the Bad Batch. I have to assume that whenever we see the Bad Batch leader, it's going to be Hunter. And how are we going to get these clones together? Now that we've seen 2 in command, are they all going to be in command? I don't know how it's going to turn out, but these cards are really cool. Really excited to get a chance to pull them and play with them and see what else comes in the set that synergizes with them, and how they can fit into decks moving forward. So thank you again to the folks at FFG for letting us reveal these 2 cool new cards. Corwin, the hype's building, and we're excited to be a part of it.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And definitely I'm definitely keeping my eye on these because, Echo, his keywords are fringe clone, which are the same keywords that Wolf has from Spark of Rebellion. So we'll see how that also plays out, and in terms of the help and the support that those 2 kind of keywords get. And like you said, will we see all the rest of the force in green, or are they going to go kind of the route of Hera where they mix it up with the aspects? To be determined. But I think both of these cards are really, really nice options that will certainly be additive to decks as we get into Shadows of the Galaxy.
When you're dropping big words, that means it's time to go. But this was awesome. Thanks to all of you tuning in to take a look at our new card reveals. And we're going to be on the train. So choo choo. See you next time. Thanks, everybody.